TomoNews presents Whales.
Want to see what happens when a whale is having a really crappy day? These pictures come to us from diver Keri Wilk, who got caught up in the underwater shitstorm off the coast of the Dominican Republic. He and 3 other divers had planned an epic day of swimming with a pod of sperm whales in what he describes as, quote, the most crystal clear Caribbean blue water you can imagine. Unbeknownst to them, though, that water was about to get a lot murkier thanks to Doo-Doo the whale here, whose stomach was on the fritz. The animal dropped what is probably the most massive deuce ever recorded on video, covering about 100 meters in all directions with its stank on you. Wilk says it got in his eyes and mouth. It was everywhere. Once clear of the poo-nado, the clear ocean water washed it away. He still took an extra long shower though, just in case.
Paddleboarder's GoPro captures killer whale close encounter. After hearing about some orcas just down the beach, a man in New Zealand thought it would be a good idea to paddleboard 200 meters offshore towards the group of the giant black and white marine mammals that are known to feast on other mammals and whose nickname highlights their capacity to kill. There was a moment there where the whale, after briefly checking the man out, decided to go for a little sampler. Little damage was done though, fortunately. The encounter remained friendly and it seems the orca was merely curious about the paddleboarder. After a few more seconds checking the paddleboarder out, the orca swam back and joined the other orcas, diving for stingrays. The paddleboarder held his cool throughout the encounter, later admitting he was just a tad nervous during his brush with one of the world's most skilled predators.
What causes whale strandings? Recently, Britain's coastguard caught off a search for what could have become the 7th stranded whale in the country in the past few weeks. Rescuers had started an operation to help the sperm whale after a scene approaching the coast of Mundesley. But after being unable to spot the whale inside the search area, the Coast Guard reckons the animal may have survived and swam the deeper waters. Experts say the survival rates for whale strandings are usually low. If the Coast Guard's hopes are right, this whale was a lucky one. But there's several reasons and scenarios that can cause whale strandings to happen. A whale may become stranded if it is ill or suffers an injury to its navigation system. Also, when in shallow waters, whales can easily become trapped in a changing tide. And since the marine animals live in tight-knit groups, one sick animal's calls of distress can cause an entire pod to respond and become stranded as well. Underwater seismic activity can also cause a whale stranding. So far in 2016, as many as 30 sperm whales have died in Europe's North Sea.
Humpbacks interrupt orca pod's feeding frenzy. You never know what you might find when flying a drone over the ocean, but on May 1st, a group of marine biologists managed to capture this amazing footage of a pod of orcas trying to devour a gray whale carcass, but getting interrupted by a couple of uninvited dinner guests, 2 humpback whales. The orca pod has reportedly been on a killing spree in Monterey Bay over the past 2 weeks, targeting gray whales. 7 whale casualties recorded so far is oddly high for such a short time span, which caught the attention of the scientific community. The orca's blood spilling has also captured the attention of the 60 to 70 humpback whales in the area who've migrated early this year. Watch carefully and you'll see the humpbacks disrupting the orcas during mealtime. Orcas are the main predators of gray whales, but humpbacks have no interest in the prey, leading experts to wonder what their motives might be for pissing off their rivals. A show of altruism, perhaps, to protect the gray whales? Some experts suggest this behavior is more likely to be an instinctual attack response, given that orca pods often go after humpback whale calves. Or maybe the humpbacks are just jerks at the underwater cafeteria, jocks pushing food trays off the geek tables. Who knows? Whatever the reasoning, these whale wars going on off the California coast right now are probably doing wonders for the state's whale watching tour industry. Ah, nature.
How whales became the biggest animals on the planet. Whales are among the most enormous life forms to traverse the Earth. In fact, blue whales happen to be the largest animal to have ever graced this planet. Roughly 50 million years ago, whales were previously hoofed mammals on land, still evolving to become creatures of the oceans. Over the following 20 to 30 million years, some developed the unique ability to filter feed, consuming colossal quantities of food. But it wasn't until about 4.5 million years ago that whales of several different breeds started popping up as the massive beings we see today. From studying 140 fossilized whale specimens and noting the climate patterns taking place during the time of this whale growth explosion, researchers at the Smithsonian Institute's National Museum of Natural History believe they've pinpointed the environmental conditions that set the stage for the birth of these underwater giants. Their findings were published on May 23rd in the journal Proceedings of the Royal Society B. In the midst of the Pleistocene era, nutrients such as iron entered the water by means of runoff from glaciers in the northern hemisphere. Meanwhile, wind-driven upwelling cycles forced cold water to the surface, along with a plethora of organic material. The nutrient-rich waters drew in tons upon tons of zooplankton and krill, practically forming underwater walls of whale food stretching for miles. These gatherings took place seasonally, demanding whales travel far distances between feedings. Only the most massive whales had the fuel to make the trips, while the smaller ones eventually died off. Altogether, these dynamic processes allowed whales to grow from the size of minivans to greater than the length of 2 school buses in a relatively short period of time. According to interviews conducted by the New York Times, the study is garnering wide recognition from the scientific community for helping us better understand whale evolution while offering further evidence to support current findings about the shifts in our oceans throughout Earth's history.
Asshole humpback whale collides with jet skier. Amazing drone footage captures humpback whale slapping its tail.
Orca whales harassing fishing boats for their catches. Fishermen out in Alaska are dealing with a new threat to their fishing hauls in the form of killer whales. Recently, the pods of predators have been observed targeting individual boats, even waiting hours for the fish to pile up. Once the fishermen are ready to call it quits, that's when tens of orcas swim in to swipe the catch. A fisherman interviewed by the National Post likened the shakedown to the methods of a biker gang. The fishermen who've been victimized by this thuggery say not only do they get stalked by the whales, they sometimes get chased back to port. Using electronic noisemakers was one disruption technique designed to shoo them away, but the orcas now hear it as a dinner bell. The fishermen also report they've seen more juvenile whales, which could mean the young ones are being taught how to go gangster at an early age. The increased incidence of whale thieving in the area is being attributed to populations rebounding, following a moratorium on commercial whaling in the 1990s. That and killer whales are socially advanced creatures as well as expert hunters, known to invent their own hunting strategies and share useful information amongst their pods. While there are no reports of wild orca whales killing humans, that doesn't mean they're opposed to roughing you up.
Volunteers saved 67 of the 198 pilot whales beached in New Zealand. Last week on New Zealand's southern island, a pod of pilot whales ran aground on a beach called Farewell Spit. There were 98 whales and volunteers rushed to save them, but after several days, despite volunteers' best efforts, they were only able to return 67 whales to the ocean, while 131 whales died.
We've got 198 whales, and it's the biggest one we've picked for 10, 15 years. Because there's just so many whales, there are a couple of spots where a lot were gathered together, and that's kind of problematic from the fact you can't get in there, it's just too dangerous.
Beach whales often die due to exposure to the sun, dehydration, and health issues as the weight of their own bodies can crush their internal organs. Farewell Spit Beach sees beach whales almost every year, and this incident this year is the highest incident since 1985. New Zealand does not have a rehabilitation or rescue center for beached or injured whales and dolphins. The topic is controversial as some animal rights activists do not believe animals should be caged or separated from groups during rehabilitation and recovery.
Two divers, Sean Stamback and Francis Antigua, were relaxing in the water and watching humpback whales feed a quarter of a mile away. Little did they know that another pair of the hungry predators were hunting below them. Suddenly, a school of sardines started going crazy in the water around the men, followed by their 40-ton lunge-feeding pursuers who barely missed the divers. Congratulations, Sean Stamback and Francis Antigua. You just cheated death. Marine biologists are testing a new smartphone application that can help pinpoint the location of whales near San Francisco Bay. The app can be used by anyone with an iPhone who goes out to sea in a ship or boat. Using the app provides sailors with real-time information about the distribution of whales. The app uses GPS to record the locations where whales and other marine animals have been spotted. It can map individual whales or whole pods and plot them on a digital map. The cloud-based system allows for both online and offline data collection and supporting automatic data synchronization. The app is designed to help ships and boats avoid whale strikes. According to a local marine mammal biologist, there were at least 100 whale strikes in California between 1988 and 2012.